You're listening to the Third Down Squad podcast, the best international news podcast for the National Football League. We're your hosts, Derek, Josh, and Toby. Let's get you ready for new set downs on Sunday.
Welcome back to the Third Down Squad podcast. Today, it's just me, Toby, and Josh here on the podcast. Derek's away on vacation this week, but today our topics are, first off, today the NFL owners have proposed an 18-week NFL regular season, which we will discuss here. Next up is the contract negotiations, or the lack of, between Melvin Gordon and the LA Chargers. Then we got Josh's predictions for the AFC West, which he couldn't do last week. And then us two are going to do our NFC West predictions for next season. So to start us off this week, as said, the owners have proposed an 18-game regular season with a cap of 16 games per player. So Josh, do you think that is a proposal that could possibly come to reality, and is keeping the players to 16 games a good idea?
I don't think that's going to go through, because compared to all other sports, football is probably the most physically demanding. I'm not taking anything away from all the other sports out there, but you take hits day in and day out, going from the actual game all the way to through practice. I know that practice it's like light tackling, but you're still taking physical hits. And I just think that if you're limiting them to 16 games, then why make it 18? You're just tacking on. You're trying to get rid of 2 preseason games, but you're going to end up with 2 preseason games anyway by the 17th week going into it, because the 16-game cap limit is going to be hit on majority of the players that have made it all the way through. So to get rid of 2 preseason games just to see 2 more later in the season, it's just not working for me. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to point that out too. I mean, it's on paper, it seems like a good idea, but in practice, it's just not going to work because, like I said, health of the players is what should come first in the NFL. And if you're going to add 2 more weeks onto a very long and stressful season, then I think that, you're kind of pushing it. They are superhumans, but they aren't, invulnerable. They're still going to take damage. So it's not going to work, but I can see where they're going from like a statistical TV viewing standpoint as well. What about you?
Yeah, I can see the point why they want to do it, and me personally as a fan, I'd love to see a couple more actual regular season games other than like you said, the preseason games. I mean, yeah, we watch it because it's football, but at the end of the game, you have the third string players or even fourth string or players on the field that you're not going to see in a regular season game. So it's not that entertaining, and having a regular season game or 2 more with the second string players out on the field, it's a little bit more entertaining than the 2 preseason games, that for sure. But like you said, the one thing is preventing injuries for the players. Yeah, it's a different idea with capping 16 games for every player. So basically every player is still playing a normal season in the NFL. But the one concern I see there is a couple of analysts in the NFL already put that out there. With the fans, you're going to an away game or even a home game, and you want to see your star players. You maybe only go to 1 game a season, and you want to go to that game and see the star players on the field, and then to learn maybe an hour before the game when the inactive list comes out that in the case of the Saints, maybe I'm going to a game and I can't see Drew Brees play in that game, or Michael Thomas or something like that. I'm gonna be mad to pay that much for a ticket in the NFL. So for me, yeah, I see the benefit for the fans, and especially for the owners, because they're gonna make a bunch of money out of that added 2 games in the season. But there are also drawbacks for the teams and the fans as well. So, I like the idea to expanding the game, the regular season schedule, but there's got to be a better solution than that. Maybe adding a couple more bye weeks in there or something like that.
I think what. Oh, go
Yeah,
ahead.
go on, Josh.
I was gonna say, if you're gonna do something like this, you should probably take up the type of scheduling and coaching that the NBA does, because they usually let their star players after a long season, because their season's definitely longer than the NFL's. They'd probably rest their starters halfway through the middle of the season. So if Tom Brady's out there and he still hasn't capped his 16 games yet, you're still going to push him out there in week 17, week 18 of the regular season. I just there's going to be a lot of rest period, and just not to mention how much of a problem it'd be for fantasy football owners too, because
Yeah.
you go middle of the week, you have, like you said, Drew Brees going for week 1 to week 8, and he's off 2 weeks, and you have all the good quarterbacks are gone, so you have to go with their backup, who's probably going to be worse, than the starter. So it's going to make fantasy football go from easy to very hard if this goes through. I just don't
Yeah,
know if it's just me just thinking about it like that, but yeah.
yeah. I mean, from a fantasy football standpoint, it's definitely gonna be more complicated to predict who you want to play in each week. So from that
Mm-hmm.
standpoint, like you said, I feel the same way. This proposal from the owners is not going through. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'd love to see, like I said, an 18 game schedule, but if you want to do 18 games, why not put in 3 bye weeks in the season?
Yeah,
That
I
would really
agree.
help out. Let every player play 18 games, but put in 2 extra bye weeks for every team. So
Mm-hmm.
that would make it a lot more entertaining, the season longer, and we don't have to wait that long in the off season for us to get more content for the podcast, and as a just a football fan to have more football over the course of the year. So that would be a
Mm-hmm.
win-win for everybody, I believe.
Oh yeah.
So now moving on
It's
from the new schedule to the conflict between, or yeah, let's call it conflict between Melvin Gordon and the LA Chargers right now. Melvin Gordon wants a bigger contract, and he is right now kind of threatening the LA Chargers with an holdout to begin the season if they don't give him a bigger contract. I believe he wants a big 4-year new deal or 4-year extension with a lot of money on it. And my question here is, Josh, I believe that's a clear-cut question if Melvin Gordon should, or if the Chargers should pay Melvin Gordon that much money, and how much would a holdout from Melvin Gordon hurt the LA Chargers to start the season?
I'd say you. All right, really quick backstory right here. The reason why I didn't make it to the last podcast last week was because I had an econ final. So throughout the past few weeks leading up to July 3rd, I had an econ class. And in that class, we learned about microeconomics and all that stuff. The long story short, there's something called supply and demand. Now, Melvin Gordon's a curious case here, because when you look at him, he supplies you with the rushing yards, the touchdowns and all that. But how much of a demand do the Chargers really need him for? Because it seems like his first year in the league, he really didn't know what he was doing, and they really didn't demand much from him because he couldn't perform well. But then you fast forward 2 years, then he's supplying you with more touchdowns, more yardage, and stuff like that. So that's going to put the Chargers in a curious case, because unlike Le'Veon Bell, who you're definitely getting a factor back, which can either run and catch, which can run and catch. Melvin Gordon's just not that type. He's more of the downhill, I'm going to run over you type of running back. So I think right now, just on a visual standpoint for Melvin Gordon, it's more of you already know what you're getting with him. You don't even have to really look hard at the tape. You just know when you hear the word Melvin Gordon, you're going to get a hard runner who can catch it occasionally, but who Philip Rivers really likes to start to break open the defense. So I'd say the Chargers should re-sign him, but I don't think he's worth that max deal quite yet. I mean, he's still fluctuating. He just had a great year last year and the year before, but it's that first year where he just didn't know how to run, So you
Yeah.
don't know what you're getting with Melvin Gordon. So I'd re-sign him just to help out Phillip Rivers in the offense, but I wouldn't give him the max deal because I don't think he's quite there yet to earn that type of deal.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and we saw it last year at the end of the season when Melvin Gordon was a little bit injured and out for, I believe it was 4 weeks. I mean, Austin Eckler couldn't really pick up as the first running back in that offense, but I can't remember the third string running back who ended up picking up the slacks. But during the rest of the season, Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler quite complemented themselves really well on that team. So I believe keeping Melvin Gordon around to kind of have that 1-2 punch with Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler on the team is a really good strategy, but I don't believe the LA Chargers are depending on Melvin Gordon that much since they have another 2 great running backs on their roster that they should really pay him that much money on a new deal. And as you said, supply and demand, there is not really that much of a demand for a running back kind of Melvin Gordon. I don't think he's in the top tier running back yet, like you said. If you're looking at the last 2 years, okay, he's getting up there. But if you're taking his whole career, it's not quite there yet. So I believe, keep him around kind of. I believe a deal like maybe Mark Ingram got with the Ravens, something around that, I believe would be kind of suitable for Melvin Gordon as well. And let's see if he holds out because I don't think the LA Chargers will have much of a problem without him for a couple of weeks to start the season. Like I said, they were already able to pick up the slacks the 4 weeks or the couple of weeks that he was hurt at the end of last season. So I don't think the Chargers are really worried about Melvin Gordon holding out for them. All right, and then we've waited for this a little bit longer than usual. And Josh, please give us your AFC West predictions for next year. And we will start off with your predictions for the Denver Broncos, please.
The Denver Broncos, gotcha. All right, 1 sec. Let me get my notes all set up here because I've had a lot longer than these two had for the AFC West. So, with the Denver Broncos, they are going to open up the season, I believe, against the Raiders. So, I have them winning this one, going to 1-0 as such. Let's see. The Broncos and the Bears, I got them losing this one. So, it's going to be 1-1. With the Packers, I got them losing, going to 1-2. With the Jags, I like Jacksonville in this one, so they're going to go to 1-3. I do think that the Chargers will still have their number, so they're going to go to start out the season at 1-4. They will beat the Titans. I know I might have said something differently, but correct me if I'm wrong in the comments or on Twitter. The Chiefs, I think that they are going to lose to that one, so they go to 2-5. Let's see. The Colts, I have the Colts winning that one, so they're going to go to 2-6. I actually have the Browns winning this one, so they're going to go to 2-7. Let's see. The Broncos and the Vikings, I got the Broncos winning this one, so they're going to go to 3-7. The Bills, they're going to win that one. They're going to go to 4-7. They're going to lose to the Chargers, so I have the Chargers sweeping them. They're going to beat the Texans, go to 5-8. And I believe that they're going to beat the Chiefs in this one right here, so they're going to go to 6-8. They're going to beat the Lions, 7-8. And they're going to beat the Raiders again, and they're going to go to 8-8 on the season. So the Broncos will go 8-8.
All right, I think that's the same prediction as Derek, but I'm not quite sure if that's correct. But a lot better than I had them at 4-12. But now moving on, give us your predictions for the Kansas City Chiefs, Josh.
All righty, this one was pretty fun because you have a lot of factors going into this one. The whole Tyreek Hill suspension and the lack of a Kareem Hunt running back. Very porous, defense, but it's nothing like we've seen before in the NFL. So I got them. They're going to beat the Jags this time around. They're going to go 1-0 to start out the season. Then they're going to lose to the Raiders. They're going to win against the Raiders. Excuse me. I'm sorry about that. So we're going to go 2-0. If you're wondering why I keep saying that stuff, it's because I'm writing it down so I do not forget and I sound like a babbling idiot on here. All right, they're going to beat the Ravens. They're going to go 3-0. They're going to beat the Lions, so they're going to go to 4-0. But here's where everything changes when the Indianapolis Colts come in. So I'm going to have them actually beat or lose to the Colts. So they're going to go 4-1. They're going to beat the Texans. They're going to beat the Texans. Excuse me, 5-1. Let's see here. I believe I had they beat the Broncos, so they are going to go to 6-1. I got the Packers beating them this time, so they're going to go to 6-2. The Vikings, I think they'll come out with the upset win. They're going to go to 6-3. They're going to beat the Titans 7-3. They're going to lose in the first meeting to the Chargers, so they're going to go to 7-4. They're going to beat the Raiders. They're going to go to 8-4. I think they're going to lose to the Patriots, so they're going to go to 8-5. They're going to beat the Broncos. They're going to go to 9-5. They're going to. I think they're going to lose to the Bears in this one, 9-6, and they're going to beat the Chargers to end the season at 10-6.
All right, 10-6 season for the Kansas City Chiefs, and what you got for the LA Chargers?
This is the one where I actually felt high about this group because they have a lot of potential, but they just trip in the playoffs. And once they fix that tripping ability, I think that they're going to be a threat in the NFL for years to come. So, like I said, though, I actually had the Chargers beating the Colts to start the season at 1-0. They're going to beat the Lions. They're going to go to 2-0. Going to beat the Texans. Going to go to 3-0. Going to beat the Dolphins. Going to 4-0. Like I said, they're going to beat the Broncos. They're going to go to 5-0. Again, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but this is just what I'm going for. 6-0 because they're going to beat the Steelers. They're going to beat the Titans. They're going to go to 7-0. Let's see. They're going to lose to the Bears because their defense is something else. They're going to go to 7-1. They're going to lose to the Packers. They're going to go to 7-2. Get that 2-game skid. But they're going to rebound with a win against the Raiders, going to 8-2. Like I said, they're going to split this season with the Chiefs, so they're going to win the first matchup. 9-2. They're going to beat the Broncos. They're going to go to 10-2. They're going to beat the Jags. They're going to go to 11-2. They're going to beat the Vikings. They're going to go to 12-2. They're going to beat the Raiders, going to 13-2. And like I said before, they're going to lose to the Chiefs in the final game, so they're going to go 13-3.
All right, so with your predictions for the Raiders already, with the 6 games against Denver, Kansas City, and LA, we can say that the LA Chargers will win the division in your predictions there. But to finish it all off, give us your Raiders.
If you thought I was hard on Tampa, man, I'm going to be harder on the Broncos, on the Raiders here, man.
How can you be harder on them? You already picked an always 16 to the Bucks, so let's hear it.
They're going to go 0-1 against the Broncos. They're going to go 0-2 against the Chiefs. They're going to lose. Like I said, they got the Vikings win. They're going to go 0-3. They're going to lose to the Colts. They're going to go 0-4. 0-5 because they're going to lose to the Bears. The Raiders and the Packers, they're going to go 0-6 because of the Aaron Rodgers, man. They're going to go 0-7 against the Texans. I believe that they're going to win this one. 1-7 against when they get their first win against the Lions. And then it goes to crap for a little bit. They lose again to the Chargers. They lose to the Chargers. So 1-8. They'll beat the Bengals. They're going to go to 2-8. Sorry about that. They're going to lose to the Jets. They're going to go to 2-9. They're going to lose to the Chiefs again, 2-10. The Titans are going to beat them, so they're going to go to 2-11. Jags are going to beat them. They're going to go to 2-12. Chargers are going to beat them again, so they're going to go to 2-13. And the Broncos will beat them, so they'll end at 2-14. Now, I know I said it was going to be harder on them than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but it's just because, John Gruden's there, and he's supposed to be the quarterback whisperer and all that stuff, and he's stripped this team down to bare bones. So this is going to definitely be another rebuilding year, and they're going to get another top 5 first-round pick.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what the Raiders can do this season. But yeah, that completes the AFC West for now. For if you've listened to last week's episode as well, you now have all the predictions from all 3 of us. But now we move on to the new division this week. Like I said already, this week it's the NFC West. So we're moving on. The first team this week are the Arizona Cardinals, another team that didn't quite look that well last year. So quite a nice segue from the Oakland Raiders here. But I'm starting us off here. I'm gonna be quite hard on them this year as well. And they're starting off against the Detroit Lions this year. It would be a tough matchup to predict if it was later in the season, but with the new parts that are in Arizona this year, especially with Kyler Murray at quarterback, I give this one to the Detroit Lions, so 0-1 to Arizona. Then they go to Baltimore, another loss for Arizona, 0-2. Against Carolina, another loss, 0-3. Against Seattle, 0-4. At Cincinnati, that's quite a tough one, but I believe that the new guys are not quite there yet after week 5 against Cincinnati, so another loss for them, 0-5 at that point. Atlanta, I think, is too tough of an opponent, 0-6. At the New York Jets, I'm quite looking forward to who is playing at quarterback for the Giants at that point of the season, but 0-7 there. At New Orleans, I don't see no chance for the Arizona Cardinals there, going to 0-8, and then they they host the San Francisco 49ers, which I have beating them this year with their first win and possibly the first win for Kyler Murray, going 1-8. Then they go to Tampa Bay, which Josh already has the perfect season for Tampa Bay, but I believe that's their sole win for me in that season. Yeah. So they lose to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Arizona Cardinals do, putting them at 1-9. At San Francisco, the Arizona Cardinals lose that game, 1-10. Then they go into the bye week, coming back against the LA Rams, another loss, which puts them at 1-11. Pittsburgh, another loss, 1-12. Cleveland, another loss, 1-13. And the last 2 games, Seattle and LA, are 2 other losses for them. So they finish off the season with a record of 1-15. And we'll see if they have a new head coach in 2020 again.
Yeah. The Cardinals are going to be a special case because they're the first team in quite a while that I've known to just draft one quarterback in the first round last year to ditch him for a new one this year, and so that's kind of what's gonna hinder them because they need help on defense more than anything else right now, and just getting Byron Murphy and a few other people in the draft isn't really going to help. So I think that's what's going to hurt them in the long run. I'll show that in my predictions when it comes time for me.
All right, yeah. Josh, give us your Cardinals ones.
Oh, I can't wait. All right, buddy. Here we go. Let's prepare for this wild ride. Let me get my notes set up here, pal. Are we going to put that on a t-shirt? Let me get my notes set up. I mean, we can, but all right, in all seriousness, like you said, they're going to start against the Lions. I actually got them starting out 1-0 this season. You know, the Lions just getting Hawkinson in the draft, you know, they should have gone defense. You know, Ziggy Ansah's gone, Grover Quinn retired, and Darius Slay is somewhere. So that's why. But I have them losing to the Ravens, going to 1-1. I have them losing to the Panthers, so they're going to go 1-2. This is where Cliff Kingsbury starts to panic. But I got them beating the Seahawks in the first part, going to 2-2. The Bengals, they're going to beat the Bengals. They're going to go to 3-2. Just check to make sure. Yep. All right. And they're going to beat the Falcons. They're going to go to 4-2. They're going to beat the Giants. They're going to go to 5-2. They're going to lose to the Saints. They're going to go to 5-3. They're going to lose to the Niners. They're going to go to 5-4. They're going to beat the Buccaneers, so they're going to go to 6-4. Barely holding on to that 400. They're going to lose to the Niners in a season sweep, so they're going to go to 6-5. They're going to lose to the Rams in the first match, going to go to 6-6. They're going to lose to the Steelers. They're going to go to 6-7. I think they're actually going to lose to the Browns, so they're going to go to 6-8. They're going to lose to the Seahawks, so they're going to go to 6-9, and they'll beat the Rams because, like I said, the Rams will rest everybody. So there, 7-9 for the Cardinals.
All right, a lot better record than I have for them. Let's see who's right on that one. But now moving on to the second team in the NFC West with the defending division champion and the nemesis of the Saints, the LA Rams. So Josh, start us off with that one, please.
Oh, buddy, man. Just like a missed call in a NFC Championship game, these Rams will just get in by the skin of their teeth with my schedule right now. All right, so I have them beating the Panthers. They're going to go to 1-0. Then they're going to get their butts handed to them by the Saints with a lot of pent-up aggression going on here. And I mean, we're talking like 69-12 or something, you know, something outrageous. So I actually got the Browns winning this one. I know they can do it. And I am not really a fanboy of the Browns, but I just like to watch them succeed and just watch them make all these Madden moves going on. Dude, they are interesting to watch. So if I'm looking like I'm heavy on the Browns, I'm around in Northwest Ohio. That's pretty much the only game that comes on Sundays that's not a Detroit Lions game. So, all right, back to the Rams. I got off a little bit. They're going to beat the Buccaneers because, you know, the Buccaneers. They're going to lose to the Seahawks at Seattle, but they're going to split it. I actually have the Niners winning this one, so they're going to go to 2-4. They're going to beat the Falcons, so they're going to go to 3-4. They're going to beat the Bengals, so they're going to go to 4-4. They're going to lose to the Steelers. They're going to go to 4-5. The Bears are going to beat them, so they're going to go to 4-6. They're going to beat the Ravens, so they're going to go to 5-6. They're going to beat the Cardinals. Going to go to 6-6. Yep. They're going to beat the Seahawks, so they're going to go to 7-6. They're going to beat the Cowboys, going to 8-6. They're going to lose to the Niners, so they're going to go to 8-7, and they will, I believe, they will lose to the Cardinals, like I had in here. So they're going to go to 8-8 and get a wild card position.
All right, so they barely beat the Arizona Cardinals overall in that division. That's kind of interesting. That's a steep decline from being in the Super Bowl to just having a 500 season. But yeah, my predictions are a little bit lighter on the LA Rams. For me, they are opening up with a win against Carolina as well. Then they lose to the New Orleans Saints, putting them at 1-1. But I have them winning against Cleveland, putting them at 2-1. They beat Tampa Bay, putting them at 3-1. They will lose their first game at Seattle, putting them at 3-2. Then they will win against San Francisco. They will win at Atlanta and win the game against Cincinnati in London before their bye week. Coming back out their bye week, they will win at Pittsburgh, followed by a win against Chicago and a win against Baltimore. They will also beat the Arizona Cardinals. They will win their second game against the Seattle Seahawks. Then they will win at Dallas. They will win at the 49ers. And they will win their last game in the division at Arizona, because I don't think they are able to afford resting players in week 17 yet, despite ending with a record of 14-2.
Wow.
All right.
That was tale of two different teams.
Yeah, well, it usually we have kind of the same predictions here for next year. I think that's the first time we actually ever had two teams back to back where with that much of a difference here on the podcast. So I'm curious to hear what Josh has for the third team in the division with the Seattle Seahawks, which I believe if he says the LA Rams are the wildcard team there, I believe the Seattle Seahawks are your division winners there. Am I correct with that assumption?
Oh boy. Well, I'll show you later, man, because I'll just show you right now. I'll tell you later for that one. I think the G-Man has something else to say about that.
Okay.
All right, but anyway, they're going to win against the Bengals, because they're the Bengals. But I think they're going to lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers, so they're going to go 1-1. They'll lose to the Saints, but by the slimmest of margins, so like a 3-point loss, so 1-2. So we're going to, like I said, they're going to lose to, I believe I said, they're going to win against the Cardinals, or no, sorry, excuse me. They're going to lose to the Cardinals in the first matchup, so they're going to go to 1-3. Now they're good. Like I said, they are going to beat the Rams this time, so they're going to go to 2-3. They're going to beat the Falcons, the Browns. I think that they're going to beat the Browns, so they're going to go to 3-3. They're going to beat the Buccaneers, so they're going to go to 4-3.
It's Baltimore.
Oh, excuse me. Oh, yeah. I just missed Baltimore. So, sorry about that. They're going to beat Baltimore, and they're going to beat the Falcons, so they're going to go to 5-3. They're going to beat the Buccaneers, so they're going to go to 6-3. They're going to lose to the 49ers, 6-4. I think the Eagles are going to win this one, so they're going to go to 6-5. The Vikings, I think they're gonna beat the Vikings. So they're gonna go to 7-5. They're going to let me see here. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, they're going to lose to the I believe I have them losing to the Rams this time around. If I'm mistaken. Yeah, so 7-6. They're going to beat the Panthers. So they're going to go 8-6. And they're going to beat the Cardinals. So they're going to go to 9-6. And I think they're actually going to win against the Niners. So 10-6 for the Seahawks.
All right. So currently the leaders in the NFC West for Josh, but I mean, we got a little teaser there that the 49ers may have something to say about that. But yeah, yet again, my Seattle Seahawks look a little bit different. Not too much this time, but still more than usual. I have them starting off with the win against Cincinnati as well, but I have them starting off at 2-0 with a win against Pittsburgh. Then, as Josh already said, I have exactly the same thing here against New Orleans. I believe with a game at Seattle, it's always tough to play up there at CenturyLink Field with the 12th man behind Seattle. But it's still a loss against the Saints. So putting them at 2-1, it's going to be a close game. Maybe a 3-pointer like Josh said, but it's a one-score game, I believe, that's for sure. I have them beating the Arizona Cardinals in Week 4, putting them at 3-1. I have them also beating the LA Rams in their first matchup, putting them at 4-1. I've also beating the Cleveland Browns, putting them at 5-1, beating the Baltimore Ravens the following week, putting them at 6-1, beating the Atlanta Falcons, putting them at 7-1, beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 8-1, beating the San Francisco 49ers 9-1. After their bye week at Philadelphia, another win, putting them at 10-1. Also a win against Minnesota, putting them now at 11-1. Their next loss comes at the LA Rams in their second matchup, putting them at 11-2. And I have them winning out the last 3 games of the season against Carolina, Arizona, and San Francisco, putting them at the same record as the LA Rams at 14-2. But I believe the LA Rams are still ahead with the tiebreaker of the strength of schedule there, possibly with them splitting their matchups at 1-1 in the regular season.
Man, what is up with us in ties?
Yeah.
Seems like a lot of us had ties with our divisions.
Yeah, it's really, we're not really sure who is going to win that division in most of the cases. But yeah, coming up to the last team in the NFC West, to the San Francisco 49ers. And since, like I said, Josh has already teased a little bit of his 49ers, I'm going to go first here with the 49ers. And I believe we're going to have quite the opposite for the 49ers yet again. But yeah, I have them starting out with the win at Tampa Bay. So they go 1-0. Followed by their second win of the season at Cincinnati. So they open the season at 2-0. Then they host the Pittsburgh Steelers, which hand them their first loss of the season, putting them 2-1, going in a really early bye week in Week 4. Coming back against Cleveland, which they will lose, putting them at a record of 2-2. At the LA Rams, they will get another loss handed to them, putting them at 2-3. At Washington, I have them lose that game as well, putting them at 2-4. Against Carolina, another loss, putting them at 3-5. At Arizona, another loss, putting them at 2-6. Against Seattle, another loss, putting them at 2-7. Then they get their next win after a big losing streak against Arizona, putting them at 3-7. Then they lose their next game against the Packers, putting them at 3-8. But they will win their game at Baltimore, I believe, putting them at 4-8. It's just one of those games where the Baltimore Ravens just seem to not being able to play football again. They usually have one of those games in their season, and I believe this year it's going to be against the San Francisco 49ers. But their next loss comes against the New Orleans Saints, putting them at a record of 4-9. Then they lose their next game against the Atlanta Falcons, putting them at 4-10. Then they lose to the LA Rams, putting them at 4-11, and they lose also their last game at Seattle, putting them at a total record of 4-12 for their entire season. So, Josh, you have put us under suspense for a little while, but now please lift that curtain of secrecy and give us your predictions for the 49ers.
All right, so just like Godzilla 2014, Garoppolo-Zilla is going to come through San Francisco and lead them to the promised land. I mean, I might be overhyping them, but I really like their chances here, in all honesty. So, that being said, just like you, Toby, I got them starting out to start the season out. But I do have them losing to the Steelers, going into that bye in week 4. Which is incredibly early. I mean, come on, NFL. Yeah. That's way too early of a bye week.
Who needs a bye after week 3?
This is why I would like a bye week, a second bye week, for those that have it in the earlier parts. But that's a discussion for another podcast. So let's get back in. So they're going to come back and they're going to beat the Browns. They're going to go through. And I have them, I believe, if I'm not mistaken here, they're going to lose this matchup to the Rams, but they're going to split it. So they're going to beat the Washington Redskins. So they're going to go to 4-2. I have them beating the Panthers, going to 5-2. Let's see here. They're going to lose to the Cardinals in this matchup, but they're going to no, sorry, my mistake. Yeah, they're going to lose to the Cardinals in this one. I had it right. Sorry about that. Let's see. Then they're going to beat the Seahawks, going to 6-3. Then they are going to beat the Cardinals this time around, going to 7-3. Yep. I actually got them beating the Packers in the. I know, right? But they're going to beat the Ravens, so they're going to go to 9-3. They're going to lose to the Saints because, like I said, Saints don't lose till they rest all their starters in the final week. They're going to beat the Falcons. They're going to go 10-4. Yeah, that's right, 10-4. Something to say. Ugh. They're going to beat the Rams this time. They're going to go to 11-4. And they will beat the Seahawks, going to 12-4 to end the season. So they're going to be the top in the NFC West.
All right, so exactly this complete other way around than I have with 12 losses. You have them with 12 wins this season. And apparently with Josh's predictions, the LA Rams don't even make the playoffs. So I really want to see that, but I mean, if that
it's going to be the Patriots Niners Super Bowl, Garoppolo's revenge. That's what it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it, but I mean, that NFC West with those predictions, it's going to be interesting for that podcast. That's for sure.
Yeah, you're going to go. Yeah, keep in mind, this is the 32nd podcast. So we've had one podcast for each NFL team. So you can come back to this one right now when you see the Niners at 12-4 and tell them that Josh said it first.
All right. Yeah. I'm a little bit shocked by those predictions. Like I said, we usually don't have that wide of a split without predictions, but it had to happen at some point. I'm really curious to hear Derek's predictions next week when he's back on the podcast, but we have to wait for that for another week, as well as you guys out there do as well. I mean, if you want to be first to hear Derek's predictions, make sure to like and subscribe our podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at T3DS_NFL. And also check out our Spotify podcast, the Third Down Squad podcast. Usually the podcasts are out a little bit earlier on Spotify than on YouTube. But for now, that's all for this week. Maybe Josh has another thing to say, I believe.
I just want to say before we end, congratulations to the U.S. women's soccer team. They won the Women's World Cup. second straight year. Sorry about your German team there, Toby, but the USA wins again. Sorry.
I mean, they deserved it, but yeah, congrats to the U.S. women's national team there for winning that World Cup. But yeah, that's it for this week's episode of the Third Down Squad podcast. I hope we'll be back next week in full strength again. But yeah, until then, see ya.
Later.